everyone, and welcome back to the Press Break podcast here on Her Hoops Stats. I'm Chelsea, and of course, we always got Tyler and Jamie coming at you on wherever you're listening to this podcast or watching it. Welcome to our transfer portal extravaganza. With the draft over, with the NCAA season over, with training camp not yet started in the WNBA, we're going to get into the transfer portal because it closes tomorrow. Jamie?
Yeah. As of, we are recording on the 22nd, it closes on the 23rd.
Okay, so it closes while you're watching this. So
and we're getting into discussing the transfer portal. We're not personally answering the transfer portal, though we may be the only ones.
Yeah, exactly. I think the three of us are the only three people who have not entered the transfer portal yet. I think we're getting close to 2,000 people, if not 1,500 women's basketball players.
To be clear, that does include D1 through D3.
Okay. Yeah, see, she's the expert
here. Just tell me when, just show me the rosters, man. when on opening night. Yeah, at this point, I'm so lost.
People are going places. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to talk about, we've picked a few topics to talk about. Obviously, we don't have time to talk about everything in the transfer portal because we'd be here for 7 days. But we're going to get into our favorites and our, questions and our curiosities about the transfer portal action. Now, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, but the transfer portal closes tomorrow, so you can't enter it anymore, but you still have time to commit, correct?
Yeah, so I'll tease it here and then just assume that this will all make it out here pretty shortly since I haven't finished writing it. But I've got a whole bunch of stuff coming on it. But yes, you have to enter by the deadline, and that's as an undergraduate, so people can still graduate and then transfer even after the deadline. It's just less common. And then there's not really a deadline on when you have to be committed to a new school. That's pretty dependent upon, a whole host of things. A lot of people want to be there for summer workouts, and so that means that you have to be committed so that you can enroll in summer classes. But that's just really dependent on the situation, dependent on the person. So yeah, that's the long version. The short version is yes, you have to enter to be immediately eligible by midnight on the 23rd, but you do not have to be committed by midnight on the 23rd. There will still be quite a bit of time for people to make their visits, make their decisions.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to clear that up before we got into it, in case people are wondering, who hasn't committed, who's not, if people are playing whatever, if they're going to have to redshirt, all that stuff. So just wanted to get that out before we get started. But, yeah, we're going to get into first, we're going to talk about the schools that each of us think maybe have done the best so far in the transfer portal, kind of our favorite, if you want to call it a transfer portal class this year. A lot of schools have been working. A few have had more people leave than come. But I think the way that the transfer portal works now, it kind of gives these schools a free agency period to go out there and address their needs in terms of, this person graduated, so we need to fill this role, or this person transferred out, so we need to fill this role. And obviously a lot of coaches have adapted really well to it. Some coaches obviously just have to work with what happens and what their players decide. So let's get into it with our favorite classes so far. Not everything has been set in stone yet, but Tyler, let's get into your favorite class. Who you picking?
Yeah. Well, let me see real quick. Let me check with my agent. No NIL deals coming in, so this will unfortunately still just be an unbiased opinion. Because I was willing to enter the transfer portal. But due to that, I will still just go with my initial pick. And that's TCU. It's been a very interesting portal thing. This whole chapter of the year has been ridiculous. And it kicked off really with Olivia Miles and entering the portal. And look, the whole thing with TCU that has been so impressive to me was that this could have been a one-off this year. That was a very real possibility. You had a lot of rentals, right? And instead of that, you were able to kind of set a standard for your program and be a destination in various ways. Now, how you get there, whether that be through NIL or FIT or whatever, those are different conversations. But ultimately, people are in the building. And obviously, that's led by Olivia Miles. But you got a ridiculous amount of size coming in as well from various different players and whatnot. So I think for me, the biggest thing is that TCU is remaining steady. We'll see what the actual product looks like on the court. I'm not saying they're going to go back to the Elite Eight, But the biggest thing that I think TCU is able to do right now with the success in the portal is set a floor for their program.
Mhm.
And you're in the heart of Dallas, Texas, with you're a powerful team, a Power 4 team. Recruiting feels inevitable that you're going to be able to land something, you would think, right? So, like, you're setting with these kind of more rental style players right now, you're setting an immediate floor for a program that has not had one in its history. Like, everything last year was record breaking. So, to be able to go, you secure a very, very solid portal class so far, obviously led by Olivia Miles, but again, a decent mix as well now of older and younger players as well. Yes, Chelsea.
Question. Canadian question here. I thought TCU was in Fort Worth. Is that in a different place than Dallas?
So in Dallas, yeah. So in Dallas, there's like cities in Dallas. And so Fort Worth is directly to the west of Dallas. So it's like
Okay.
Fort Worth is its own city, but it's like the Dallas Fort Worth area.
Oh,
like
okay.
the
So it's like Scarborough. It's like Scarborough in Toronto.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah. Like so, it's like the
It's
airport is the
Toronto
Dallas
people.
Fort Worth airport. So
Okay.
like it's the Dallas
This
area.
is urban sprawl in action.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like technically, it's not in
Scarborough.
Dallas, but it's in Dallas.
Okay. Yeah. It's giving Scarborough. It's giving the GTA. It's giving the 6 boroughs of Toronto.
There you go. See,
for that.
there you go.
So,
yeah. No. So like, but to kind of sum it up, like again, you just said you maintain your floor. Like, we'll see what the ceiling is, but at worst, you've maintained your floor, and that is major for Mark Campbell in this program as they kind of continue to try and build and be an annual powerhouse in the Big 12. And again, to me, if they're able to have success again this year, not only do you become a fantastic destination for transfers that maybe are in there last year or just transfers in general, but also it feels like at some point the recruiting will catch up and you're in a hotbed of talent. So I'm just very intrigued by what TCU is able to do, just from even more of a program perspective, as much as it is like an encore immediate for this coming season. But TCU has certainly been a standout for me so far.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I also feel like he might have kind of brought some of that recruiting in from Oregon too. Like I remember hearing that Olivia Miles had like considered Oregon before she committed to Notre Dame to start. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. Jamie, what do you think? Who's your favorite class of the transfer portal?
Yeah, so I mean, my immediate thought as soon as we started discussing this was Virginia. I think they are flying extremely under the radar. First of all, yes, exactly as you say, Tyler, Coach Mox, like someone who was, I think people were excited about her hiring at Virginia when she came in, but it takes time to really build up a program. But I think they're making really tremendous steps forward. They're bringing back a couple of great pieces, and then they've added in so much from the portal. I also have to say that the fact that she brought in Ron Huey from Houston, now an assistant on her staff, I've said this on the 1012 podcast a bunch. I just love the way he ran a program in the face of a bunch of adversity. And so I think that he will be such a tremendous addition there as well. And so you have this really great basis that you have started to kind of build upon. And then you go in the portal and you hit some home runs that are just not really being talked about that much. I feel like you have Caitlin Weimar, who is a transfer from NC State, didn't play at NC State, went from Boston to NC State, redshirted this year, and then decided to jump back in the portal. And so you have a 6'4" player who produced at an absurdly high level for Boston, shot over 50% from the field for nearly 20 points per game, played 36 minutes per game. Like, that's crazy production for a player of that size. And that's not the only size they got. I'm sensing a trend in the first 2 teams we've discussed here. But Virginia brought in a Dang Ring from UCF, who, again, someone who is not super proven, has not been really talked about a whole lot. But she was in a very strange position at UCF. UCF had a lot of people miss time this year, had some sort of gaps in the roster. So this is, again, a 6'5" player who just finished her freshman year, was put into strange positions on the court, sometimes having to play like the 3, the 4. This is a 4-5, probably.
No.
But she showed that she had so much ability to rebound, to score when put in the right spot, that she was going to put out really great effort. And then you're also throwing in Samaya Smith on the inside too. So, I mean, you have an incredible post core. You're bringing in Romy Levy out of South Florida, who is experienced as a redshirt senior, is also 6'3". And so that's someone who averaged about 19 minutes per game. So she's going to be, again, like that experience that just sort of shore things up. She's not going to be playing the entire game for you, but brings in the added depth. And then you've got Ryan Diaz dos Santos from Florida State. Again, like 12 minutes per game, but just bringing in some more of that power conference experience. And so for the fact that they had quite a few players transfer out, including someone who I'm a huge fan of in Latasha Lattimore, who ended up at Ole Miss, who we talked a little bit about before we started recording, but they're still cooking. Like, we'll get to them, but they've made some really great moves, and I don't think they're done. They made about as good of moves as I think you possibly could make to really shore things up and set themselves up to improve even from last year. And then I'm going to give my really, really brief honorable mention to West Virginia, to the other mark in the Big 12 that I think gets overlooked a lot, because they have brought in 4 unreal additions to their class that I think are all going to make massive immediate impacts. You've got Kira Wheeler and Carter McRae on the inside. You've got Logan Johnson, interconference transfer from Texas Tech, and then Riley McCluskey from Butler, tall wing. So West Virginia, I've kind of been pounding the drum on them being a little bit overrated. They lost quite a bit to graduation, but you add those 4 to Jordan Harrison next year, give them a decent schedule, because I want them to prove what they're capable of.
Yeah. I mean, my pick is probably, I guess, going to be one that most people have already known the moves for, but I'm going to say South Carolina, just because obviously we know Dawn Staley's the master at these kind of things. She had a few needs she needed to be addressed, went into the portal, got them. Kind of seems like she's done now. Maybe not. We'll see. But you think about the fact that they lose Malaysia Fulwiley, who, you know, obviously was one of their most talked about players, was supposed to kind of make a leap. I'm not sure if this decision came before or after they got Tanaya Latson, but you go and get Tanaya Latson essentially to replace and fulfill the need for scoring, because in that finals game against UConn, like the biggest thing in both games against UConn, really, scoring was such an issue for them. They needed people who could shoot the 3. They needed people who could drive. UConn was just absolutely, you know, suffocating them on defense, and they didn't really have a backup plan. So getting Tanaya Latson obviously fulfills that need, because we know she was the leading scorer in the country last season, averaged over 25 points per game, just has absolutely like a motor. She can drive, she can shoot. And then you go in and get the other need that South Carolina needed was a big, of course, because, you know, with their graduation and all of that, and a little bit more depth in the post, especially as Ashlyn Watkins continues to recover from her ACL injury into next season. I mean, I forget when she was injured. I think it was around January, so we probably won't see her until the end of conference next season, if not like in conference. I don't think we'll see her for non-conference next season. But then South Carolina goes, this was yesterday, announces that Medina Okot is coming in through the transfer portal, who, like, such a great get for them. 6'6" center, comes from Kenya, and is just like just what they needed.
They're dominant big.
Dominant
Good
big.
Lord, we let South Carolina get another dominant big. Oh
and
no!
we all know Dawn Staley can develop a dominant big. And that was honestly
played in the
like,
SEC.
Played in the SEC. Transfers over, and just like literally like, and it's so funny because we know that Dawn can do this. We know that South Carolina is such a powerful program. We know that they like pump out WNBA players like it's nobody's business, but literally needed 2 things: energetic scorer and dominant post, and just went and got them.
Yeah.
Without really losing much. Like the only people who transferred out of South Carolina were Malaysia Fulwiley, of course, and then Sakima Walker, who was a 6'5" center grad transfer, but kind of played off the bench last season. Didn't really, you know, show probably all that she's capable of. And then, of course, now you have Okot to pair with Chloe Kitts, who's going into her senior year, and you know, is great. Obviously, like she, but for her to be able to play more of the 4 and let Okot play the 5, I think will do
the
really
center,
well.
ideally.
Yeah, she's just not a center. Like Chloe Kitts just isn't a center. So excited to see that combination. Excited to see Tanaya Latson. I think the fun connection that people may or may not know is that her and Raven Johnson went to or played AAU together or went to high school together. One of those things. But they're really good friends. So
Camilla was on that roster and AAU and everything. There's so many South Carolina connections between Tanaya and South Carolina. There's so many. It's actually kind of crazy, honestly, like how it lined up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I mean, you get her now for at least 2 seasons. So, great pickup for South Carolina. But all this to say is just like you go into the transfer portal, you have a need, you fulfill it really quickly. Now you can just get to chemistry building, get to summer workouts, come back next year, probably be ranked among the top, make it to the finals again, because that's just how South Carolina rolls. But anyway, let's move on from talking about teams specifically, going into players who have committed already to schools, and just kind of like dive into the interesting prospects, things that maybe, fit is always interesting. And I think just the ones that we're most curious about, I think could also fit into this category. So Jamie, let's start with you. I mean, if you're wondering how I pick who goes first, it's just random. But Jamie, tell us who you're interested in.
Yeah, I think that a team that definitely could have been discussed for best portal pickups as a whole is certainly Maryland. And of the 3 that they've signed so far, I'm absolutely fascinated by Aluchi Economo coming out of Duke. That was one of those players that I think raised a lot of eyebrows when she decided to enter the transfer portal. And as I've said a million times, as I'll continue saying, it's impossible to know exactly the motivations between why a player decides to leave, where they end up going. But regardless of all of the background, I think that her fit in Maryland is really, really fascinating. Maryland had to reload a lot last year in the portal. And then this year they're reloading again, but they have a really consistent base to build upon. Again, this year, you have Cheyenne Sellers graduate, but then you get Keelan Schmeichel back next year. You get Saylor Poffenbarger. You get Mir McLean. You have Bree McDaniel, who will be coming back off of injury. Presumably will be able to play next season. And so you have all of these really, really great pieces. And then you add someone like Akanawa, who I think the big thing for me is that this is a sophomore. And so this isn't the sort of mercenary that we see in a lot of these situations where we talk about with TCU, where you're getting these sort of 1-year transfers. You have 2 years where she has shown really tremendous growth from freshman to sophomore year. And then even from beginning of sophomore year to the end of sophomore year. And now you have this opportunity to have 2 years of her growing within your system and really acclimating to what you're asking her to do. And that's not to mention the fact that you also add Yarden Garzon out of Indiana and Gracie Merkel out of Penn State, who Yarden has proven she is a tremendous player. Gracie Merkel, I think, has a huge, huge, huge capacity to perform and just needs to be in the right situation, just needs to continue to make the right improvements. She had to battle injuries. She's already had to redshirt a year. And so those are all really difficult things to overcome. But considering what Maryland has done with bigs in the past, I think that this is such a great spot for her as well. So their class as a whole is great, but a lot of it, I think, hinges on Aluchi Economo because she has, I think, a really, really high ceiling that she'll be primed to reach in the situation she'll be at Maryland.
Yeah. You also forgot to mention Sarah Tibiasu, so I'm just going to throw that one in there. Canadian connection. Boom. Anyways, moving on.
Sarah Tibiasu that graduated?
Oh, did she graduate? No.
So I'll mention her as someone else they lost alongside Cheyenne Sellers.
I even went into our the transfer thing and was making sure she didn't transfer out. She just graduated. That's so sad. Anyway,
that still happens. I know.
Nobody plays 8 years in college like some people. Anyways, Tyler.
I don't know who.
If you're listening on audio, Jamie was taking a sip when I said that of her drink. It nearly choked. So
of LaCroix, so nearly killed me.
Yeah. We about just watched Jamie drown.
Not
but
sponsored by LaCroix.
yeah,
Anyway,
at all.
Yeah.
No, that would have been a crazy ad to run. But no.
LaCroix.
For me, if you have been listening to this show since the beginning, this is an agenda that I was pushing at the beginning, and it didn't pan out. I'm not gonna lie, didn't exactly pan out the way I hoped, but I'm so back. Talia Scott to Baylor. Okay, hear me out. I am begging the basketball gods to allow Talia Scott to remain healthy this season. Leaves the SEC where she has, when healthy, dominated. Like, just the scoring numbers that she have put up is ridiculous in what is probably the best defensive conference. Like, I mean, like, you can, it's kind of obviously a team by team basis, generally speaking, but like, I mean, always wanted to at least, you're not going to be, you're not facing bad defenses in the SEC is how I'll put it. And she just kind of consistently scores like 20 points. Just as long as she's healthy, if she's on the court, she's scoring 20. And to be able to now go to Baylor, which is losing some scoring, and like just generally can kind of use a little boost in that department just with the departures and graduation and things of that nature. I just need Baylor to stay healthy, because if they can stay healthy, I'm very intrigued by what they have. Dariana Lopez-Buggs is another player that I like. Baylor has kind of become an agenda team for me. I've been pushing the Dariana Lopez-Buggs agenda, Oklahoma's own, since she entered. Talia Scott, I feel like wasn't getting nearly enough love her freshman year. Obviously had injuries there as well. If Talia Scott can just stay healthy, like, because to me, I not that this is like some like make or break year for Nikki Collin at Baylor, but like at some point, I mean, there are certain standards at Baylor, right? And so I'm intrigued at like what, like if there is, I'm not even like saying like hot seat or anything of that nature, but like this is the type of player that can take you over the top if she can just remain healthy, and kind of get you into the Sweet 16, Elite 8, so on and so forth. But again, just stay healthy. I mean, that has truly been like the biggest knock on her. I mean, it's 23 games over 2 seasons that she's been able to play in. And so been phenomenal in those 23 games. We just got to see her on the court. But if she does, I'll be very intrigued in really Baylor as a whole, honestly. They get Kirsten Johnson as well from Oklahoma, which I think it's a very you can kind of switch your style up a little bit, and I think Baylor could just be playing really, really fast this season.
Okay, you're also not mentioning Yu Ting Dang coming out of Auburn, bro.
Yes,
You're talking
no,
about
you're right.
a
You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Oh my gosh, that's such a slept-on pickup too.
Yes.
And I will say that I think part of the point on Baylor is it's not a make or break year. It's that this is Dariana Lopez-Buggs and Bella Fauntleroy senior year. Like those two have been so good since their freshman year. Like they've been not like consistent across the board, but they have been consistent contributors. And so if you can put the right pieces around them, it just feels like a situation in which you should be ready to really make a big run on their backs. And I think that they've gone into the portal and definitely made the moves to do so. Like Talia Scott, you add to a team, and that instantly is giving you such a big boost. But then you talk about the other 3 pickups they've made. Like they have made really impressive pickups, and that's without losing very much to the portal. All they've had go is Lada Jennings, who had come in from a JUCO and just hadn't quite settled in there. And then they're also getting Jana Van Geitenbeek back, who came on so strong at the end of her senior year, now has her COVID year, but got hurt last year, so she's going to be a massive boost as well. So yeah, I think Baylor's putting themselves in a great spot. And Talia Scott,
yeah. Like if you told me, especially with like some of the movement at the top, like kind of like the top 10, I think like the very, very top is we're gonna see a lot of familiar faces from like this Final Four. But like 5 through 10, if you told me that Baylor ends up in that area, I wouldn't be surprised. Like if they could kind of settle in there, it truly is to me staying healthy and finding consistency has been kind of their problem. It's been Talia Scott's issue that she's faced. If they could find that consistency, if they could find that health, I'm genuinely very intrigued about what they can do, both in the Big 12 and nationally.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, that's my thing. Right on cue, I guess. So my pick for for a player that I'm intrigued about is Avery Howell going to Washington. So obviously shocking when she decided to transfer out of USC, but, that entire freshman class also transferred out, so I don't know
Mhm.
what's going on there. But anyway, Avery Howell decides to go up to Washington, which maybe it's a matter of being closer to home, maybe it's, any of that. But anyway, ends up going from a team where you're ranked higher, but she was kind of like that sixth woman slash like bench role player
Yeah,
on USC. Obviously with Juju in the mix, like for the majority of that season. But
yeah.
she comes off the bench. She's a shooter. She's able to make an impact on the game. Usually is quite efficient when it comes to, making the most out of the minutes that she's given. Then the postseason comes. She ends up getting her first start was in, I believe, the Big Ten tournament, the first game of the Big Ten tournament, and then kind of gets this like kind of wishy-washy, like starting, sometimes not role throughout the playoffs in the postseason, just because of the amount of injuries and illnesses and et cetera that USC ended up going through. But now she goes to a team in Washington that, they made I think it was the first four and then didn't make it,
Mm.
or they made the first round of the tournament. Regardless, they, are kind of on a brink of being like a tournament team. She comes in, I mean, is going to be a big factor in terms of being on the international team in Canada for the next few years. She's definitely going to be in action this summer when it comes to the Canadian team, and then becomes kind of their star, their number one, their first option, and I think kind of gives them this boost of shooting. I believe they lost. Was it Delia Daniels who came out of
Yeah,
Washington?
Delia
Yeah,
Daniels, but then they also bring back Xavier Sellers and they
yeah,
have LA Dean. So
There's
like
a
you
solid
have a
core
really
that you're
great
yeah,
adding
go
her to.
yeah, like Avery Howell I think is someone who can be a great option for a lot of things, but like she's not having to put everything on her back. Like you're
yeah,
not walking into the situation where it's like, hello, empty cabinet. Like this,
yeah.
like the entire potential this team is on me. It's that, oh no, I get to really raise the floor as well as the ceiling of this program.
Yeah, and I think just kind of hopefully boosts them from being on that edge, like on the brink team, to being a team that can compete, maybe go a little bit further in the tournament. I mean, it's the school that Kelsey Plum came out of, so it's a school that can develop players that can, produce players that end up having impactful careers on WNBA rosters. I mean, they just, like I said, Delia Daniels just got drafted. And yeah, and I think for Avery, I mean, if you're closer to home, you're closer to Canada when you have to like go to camps and whatnot, maybe the situation's a little bit better. But I am definitely intrigued to see how her sophomore season goes. She'll definitely have more of a starting role as opposed to coming off the bench. So maybe that was, the logic going into that. But excited to see how she comes off in her sophomore season.
Mhm.
So now, okay, so we're coming into the part now where the transfer portal is about to close. So we're about to kind of know everyone who's in the transfer portal. Like we were saying at the beginning, we don't know exactly. There's a few people who are still on the board, basically. So we've all picked someone who we think is like, I guess, best available would be the right term. And maybe some thoughts on where they might go. I'll get started with Sarah Williams because I think she's a really intriguing prospect. Coming in. I mean, she's played 3 years for Wisconsin, has averaged about 16 points per game, can get rebounds, is 6'4", so brings a lot of size into the post wherever she goes. But she's being recruited by these teams who have been able to really capitalize, like Jamie calls them, those like mercenary players who come in, can play for a year or two, and just be able to not only develop themselves but be really helpful to their teams. I've heard her linked to UConn a bit, which I mean we know Gino Auriemma is really good at grabbing grad players and senior players out of the portal and being able to make good use out of them in the 1-2 years that they play. I mean, Caitlin Chen was just an example of that. Dorka Juhas was a great example of that a few years ago. You had Lou Lopez Seneschal, who was a great example of that. So he's very good at like being able to like recruit that talent through other schools and just kind of be able to bring them to UConn, use them for a year or two, and then they move on. And then LSU's the other one where she's being linked to quite a lot. And again, I mean, obviously we know that Kim Mulkey likes her big players. We had Angel Reese, Anissa Morrow now who is gone. Flau'jae is going back for another year. So, she's not a big, but has a great, potential to partner with Sarah Williams as a center. So, I mean, she's definitely an intriguing prospect, and I'm excited to see. I mean, personally, I kind of hope she goes to UConn and, comment away about that. But UConn bias over here. How dare I? But I do think that, like, her and AZ, her and, like, KK Arnold, like, I think that would be a fun combo.
And for someone who, like, played this past year alongside Carter McRae to then be able to play with Sarah Strong would definitely be really interesting.
Yeah, and then Sarah Strong wouldn't have to play that, like, center role as much, and then, it would work out. Anyway, but yeah, that's my pick for most intriguing prospect on the board still, so we'll see where she ends up committing. But Jamie, let's head to you. Who do you think is still on the board that you're intrigued about?
Yeah. I mean, something we kind of discussed here was going with not just best available, because there's been a lot of discussion for many of the players we could go with there, but some of the people who are maybe not discussed as much, maybe a little bit underrated, underreported on. And so in that vein, I got to go with Jacqueline Gamwena-Tanda. A lot of that is because she just kind of snuck in before the end of the portal deadline. She's coming out of Texas. This is someone who was extremely highly rated coming out of high school, has been someone that plays consistent minutes for Texas, but not big minutes for Texas, and came on really strong to finish the season this year when Aaliyah Moore got hurt. So started 15 of the last 18 games for Texas, saw a massive increase in not just her minutes played, but her role on the whole, getting more shots and being more important to Texas success. And so that's part of why this is interesting, because it was, to me, pretty surprising. But I'll be very fascinated to see where she ends up, because I think that tells us a lot about why she goes into the portal, why she went into the portal, will be what her landing spot ends up being. Is she going to a team with a very different style? Is she going to a team where she's going to have a more consistent, significant role? Because I think it's hard to say that at any point you feel really secure in your spot with Texas because of what they have returning for her. And so I do think that there's a lot of room for her to increase her role elsewhere. So I'm really fascinated by her. I actually mentioned earlier Jana Van Geitenbeek with Baylor. That's who the situation reminded me of so strongly, where year before last, Jana, by the end of the season, she wasn't playing a ton to start the year. By the end of the season, she was indispensable. She was their glue player. And so that's why when she went out last year was really tough, but she's going to be big coming back. That's what Jacqueline Gamwena-Tanda was for Texas by the end of the season. She was going to go out there. She maybe wasn't going to score 20 points a game, but she was going to go out there and she was going to work really hard. And she was going to make generally pretty good decisions. And she was going to put herself in the right spot. She was going to set up her teammates. She was going to be really unselfish. And so she's just the type of player that I really love to watch play. And I'm excited to see her hopefully end up somewhere where she will be ensured a little bit bigger of a role, because she showed flashes of what she's capable of to end the season at Texas. And so if we can see a whole season of her blossoming into that, I mean, this is a player with tremendous potential.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome. Tyler?
Look, I know we said we're going to go underrated and not like the top of the class. However, I think potentially the best player available is underrated. Well, Gianna Neepkins.
Oh, true.
Gianna Neepkins has not been discussed like nearly enough. We'll see where she ends up, but like it sounds like it's going to be a contender. And I'll just put this out here, right? Not that I don't think Gianna Neepkins, she's not like going to like a low power forward team and like propelling them all the way to a national championship. But if you told me that X team wins a national championship because of Gianna Neepkins, that wouldn't surprise me one bit at all. And we'd be able to go back to the moment that she committed as the moment that started this championship run for whatever team that she ends up on. Like, that is the caliber of player that I think Gianna Neepkins is. The scoring is obviously there. The shooting is there. The length is there. Like, she's a ball handler. Like, there's not much that she can't do. And a lot of it has gone under the radar, being at Utah, just like not at a major school. Gianna Neepkins could have went to the W this season. Like, had she wanted to go, like, And I understand. I think I like that she came back because I think that there's growth to her game to still be done. But if she was in this draft, she's getting drafted. Like
Very
without a
much
doubt.
like Rory Harmon, where like she had an injury, she still
Yes.
is rounding into form
Yep.
after that. Would have been a great prospect, but given the extra year, I
Yep.
think she'll take a massive, massive leap. And
Yep.
I've been so obsessed with her. Her game is crazy complete for her
Mhm.
size, the shooting, absurd.
Like
Absurd.
there's really not much that she can't do. Again, like maybe you want to tighten the handle up, like things of that nature. But like generally speaking, like the foundation is there for every single aspect of what you're asking her to do
The
on the basketball
versatility,
court.
like whatever spot you
Absolutely.
put her in, she's gonna kind of rise to that occasion.
Absolutely. And so and I say that because like you look at the teams that potentially she could be going to. A UCLA, a South Carolina, a Texas. God, if she goes to Texas, that'd be great. Oklahoma. So like those, like that's where the visits have been taking place. And like any one of those teams, like the fit feels phenomenal. First off, like literally, like every single one of those teams,
it's a spot
it's different.
Use,
it's
different.
different.
She's not joining
each.
a slew
Yes.
of the same type.
Yes, it's different in each. Like I think it'd be like kind of different responsibilities. Like just realistically, like the Oklahoma system is not the Texas system, is not the South Carolina system. Like, and it's all kind of over the place. But the fit, and I think that's such a compliment to Gianna because you can go to any team and fit because that is the type of player that she is. So again, even though like she is potentially, I mean, it's her and probably Malaysia right at the very top of the portal remaining, like when it comes to talent right now. But I still just don't feel like Gianna has gotten the respect that she deserves in the sense of she can win you a national championship on any one of those teams. Like she can have that caliber of impact. So I'm incredibly interested in seeing where she ends up because I mean, again, you're getting a first round, like whatever team she's going to, that's a first round talent in this next year's draft. So wherever she ends up, we'll see. But that's the caliber of player that you're getting. So I'm very intrigued.
Chelsea,
by
just say
where
it.
she ends up.
Just say it.
She's a Toronto Tempo.
She could be. And she played it. Look, listen. I know it's like ha. However, even knowing how much talent is at the top, if you told me Gianna Meekins played her way up into number 5, number 6, I would not be surprised at all. Again, like there is certainly growth to be had. But goodness, you go and put her on one of these like contending teams that are going to be, top 10 teams. I'm moved. I don't know. I don't even know where she's going yet, and I'm already moved because that's the caliber of player that she is.
To Toronto, Gianna.
Fight with LA for her so that she can be reunited with her college coach.
Yeah.
Also, her and Grady Dick would make some fun commercials together. That's all I gotta say.
Marketing.
Yeah, I'm like marketing now, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
When I'm so locked into the team that I just start marketing them for free.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, she excites me so much. Her and like Rory Harmon, these players that, like you said, could have been drafted this year, decided to go back. I mean, Easy Fudd's another one, Lauren Betts, like all of these ones who were eligible, but like we're like, let's go back here. I mean, all of them have different reasons. Lauren wanted to play with her sister, Az was injured, yada yada. But I just I don't think, like we've talked about these last few WNBA drafts as like, oh, there's so much talent. I think people are sleeping on the 2026 draft.
That's just how it is now. Like the talent has become so widespread, so diversified, has increased to such a level that like you don't have a down draft anymore. Like there'll be years where you look in retrospect and you don't have as many people that end up having long careers in the league because that's just the nature of the game and how it works. But when you look at some of the drafts from a decade ago where it was all these players from UConn and then no one else really landed, whatever, that kind of thing. Like, that's just not the way things are anymore. Players come out of college so much more pro ready. You're going to have so many more potential prospects, and you're going to have people who fly under the radar in college that are then identified as great pro prospects as well, because they're not all going to the same schools. They're not all developing in the same way. So like, I feel like that's just the standard that people are having to adjust to mentally.
Yeah. And you know who's picking in the lottery for the next few years? The Toronto Tempo. Let's go. Let's go.
Feel good.
Now I'm about to be the most annoying person I officially have a WNBA team. I was thinking about this today. I have only ever been to one preseason WNBA game in my entire life, and that's it. Like, she's just a remote. She's doing this from internationally. So anyway, that's why I'm gonna be excited.
They're on the way. They're on the way.
We're coming. We're coming.
Mhm.
Anyway, yeah, that was our transfer portal extravaganza. Yeah, I mean, things should be happening, I assume, in the next few weeks. Like Jamie was saying, I assume players want to get to their new schools, summer workouts, et cetera, et cetera. So I suspect, especially these like top contenders that we were just talking about, to lock in their commitments in the next few weeks. But whew, it's been I'm excited for this era to be over. Not gonna lie.
It'll be good when it's commitment news as opposed to a sprinkling of commitment news, a whole bunch of transfer news,
It's
drama. Like,
Yeah,
let's get some things settled. Let's get like actual facts, not the speculation, the you know, back and forth, whatever. Like, let's just get things hashed out.
Let's go. Yeah, let's figure out who's on what team. We can start making way too early predictions for next season.
There we go.
That's been happening.
It's already happening, yeah.
Happening. But I mean, now we get to go into the WNBA. Training camp literally starts this weekend, so it's time for that, apparently. So yeah, stay tuned for that. We'll surely talk about that in the next week. But make sure to follow Her Hoop Stats on social media. Like Jamie said, she got some stuff coming out. The whole team over there has some fun stuff coming out. And of course, with the WNBA starting, we're one of, I mean, I'm biased, but we're one of the best resources out there for WNBA information, stats, all that stuff. So make sure to check us out and catch us all on social media. I realize I don't have my handle, but it's just my name, so whatever. But Amy and Tyler are also up on Twitter. We be yapping. So yeah, check us out there and subscribe to this channel for more women's basketball stuff from Her Hoop Stats. Thanks, y'all. See you next week.